Hey, yo, this is SamAnt, and oh, God, make sure you go check out our podcast, the Hip Hop Uncensored Podcast, on radio.com. You've seen us on YouTube, over 800,000 subscribers strong. Now, if you want to listen to your brothers raw, real, uncut, and most importantly in full, go check us out on radio.com, where we bring you the latest news on all things hip-hop, sports, relationships, politics, you name it, we cover it. The most dangerous podcast out to date, the Hip Hop Uncensored Podcast. Check us out 4 days a week on the radio.com app. Let's go. If you just say fuck it and let it loose,
let it go.
You got it in.
Go. So we definitely rooting for you. You know, Kevin Hart over here on the Hip Hop Uncensored Podcast. The next story is saying, man, Richard Pryor's bodyguard. We were looking up last night, and I seen it on my Instagram, and I'm like, whoa, I had to send it to you. I know, you know, this is, you know, something that you follow real closely. Big fan of, you know, both of these gentlemen here. You know, what's going on with Richard Pryor's bodyguard?
Bruh, dog. So when you sent it, you sent the picture, and I just looked, and I was like, oh, shit.
Right.
I immediately went on YouTube and looked it up because I'm a fan of Comedy Hype. Shout out to them. They, like no other, it seemed like anybody that ever sits wherever they got them sitting, as soon as they utter a word, they just got them fucking saying everything. They have them saying everything. And this dude, Rashawn Khan, who happens to be Richard Pryor's former bodyguard, says some really, really crazy things about Paul Mooney. Now, the topic that he's going to talk about is no laughing matter, something that plagues our community as well as the world. It's something that we've talked about on this podcast. In fact, we've had victims of that on this podcast to talk to him. So when you hear the allegations from Paul Mooney, man, sit back and put your seatbelts on, and then we'll talk about it.
Well, from JoJo Dancer on, the relationship became fragile. Okay. Because Paul Mooney had Richard's son by that time. Okay. And he violated. And that's any man, if you violate their children like that. So Paul took advantage of the situation. And so from there on, whatever Paul Mooney was to Richard, and there was a time that Paul Mooney was Richard's friend. You know, I acknowledge that. Paul Mooney was his friend. And they laughed. So when Paul did what he did, it was a violation of friendship first, and then my son, you know. Right. And in some circles, that's supposed to be dealt with. Was it ever to the extent of Richard didn't want him on the planet no more. He shared it with me, and he said he wanted somebody killed. And Richard, that wasn't his conversation, so I just attribute that he must be high right now. And you know, it's Friday. Asked him again because Richard never spoke like that. And I just said, do you remember what you said to me last week? And he was on it so clear. It was like, okay, it's serious. And so then I asked him, what is it about? He said, $1 million. I want somebody killed. And I was like, damn, I'm not a killer. I'm not that person. But I did give it thought. I know some people, some damn where. He told me the first time I thought he was high. I just made that high conversation. But because he was so adamant about it, I asked him again that Wednesday. And then he went into detail. And that's when he told me what went on. And he told me who did it. Mm-hmm. And he was hurt by it. Yeah. He was hurt because it happened to his son. And he was really hurt, which I don't think Paul Mooney understood, because someone that I took as a friend did that to me. Right. Yeah. Richard was a little boy. Why? It didn't happen because Richard caught on fire. Richard burned. And that's what saved Paul Mooney's life today, present day, is because Richard caught on fire. Mm-hmm. And then that became the primary. Before that, it was Paul Mooney. Mm-hmm. You did this to my son. It was betrayal. My son, and then you pretended like it didn't happen. So had Richard not caught on fire, Paul Mooney would not be here. He wouldn't be living. Did Richard?
God damn. Now, Paul Mooney has responded. Representatives of Paul Mooney has responded to these allegations, and they continue to deny the allegations, telling TMZ that Khan's story does not add up. The representative highlights the fact that Mooney and Richard Sr. were seen hanging out as late as the 1990s, about 20 years after Khan claims the relationship had gone sour. The rep also points out that Richard Jr. never mentioned Mooney by name when he was speaking to TMZ about the non-consensual sex Man, I got a lot to say, but oh God, listening to that, knowing the two, not as much as I, but obviously knowing the two, what do you think about this, man?
Man, I think it's wild. It's something straight out of, a movie to see this. I mean, the accusations, I didn't even know, I would have never expected Paul Mooney's name to come up in something like this. But, obviously saying he was underage at the time. And I really don't know, Sam, man. I don't really know what to say on this one. I think that we have to look at the credibility, of this bodyguard, to see, is he in his right state of mind? But obviously, he was his bodyguard and he's, speaking out right now, for Mr. Pryor and, Paul Mooney's family put out a statement, but it's almost like, who do you believe in this situation? Now I guess I have to defer to you because, way more about the situation. Do you believe this? What do you think of this?
Yo, I'm at a loss. I'm not at a loss for words, but I'm at a loss of thought. I don't know what to think about it. I'm going to give it time to wait and see. Obviously, Paul Mooney and his representatives are going to deny all allegations. When you look at the history between Paul Mooney and Richard Pryor, you never heard anybody saying anything like this, being any kind of tainted relationship or anything. But that being said, we've heard story that's came out as of late that have kind of confirmed some things that have been surprising to us. I don't think it's any secret to anybody that Paul Mooney may be homosexual, maybe bisexual, who knows? It didn't bother me. I don't care necessarily when it comes to his genius. He's one of the greatest comedic writers that have ever lived. And that never bothered me, knowing that then, knowing it now, knowing it through all of our commentary. But what bothers, it doesn't bother me, but what's kind of ringing through my head right now is even all the defense he gave for Michael Jackson, even though we believe that the documentary was BS. We continually believe that. We talked to Michael Jackson's family. Yeah. That gave us a lot of just detailed notations to spare or just giving no real weight to that documentary. You know what I mean? So I'm not really fucking with that. But the fact that he was just so outright saying, don't worry about that, listen to the music. I keep hearing that like, damn. We all just know that real ugly conversation in the room is that molestation, pedophilia. It goes on in a lot of different families. A lot of the extract that you didn't hear is they said that, or Khan said that Paul Mooney gave the title, the uncle title, that nasty uncle. It came from him. So it's just wow. It's a deep rooted subject. You don't want to go homeboy's a liar just because we all love and just admire Paul Mooney. But we got to wait and let everything kind of play itself out. Richard Pryor Jr. came out and said he's been molested. And he didn't put Paul Mooney out there by name. It'll be interesting to see what he says. And it'll be interesting to see. My question is, why now? Why hasn't anything came out to kind of throw this in there?
Somebody putting this type of information out, and, if it's not true, then they could be, held liable, in court. So, I mean, we got to wait and see, obviously, because, again, it's like, who do you believe more? Whose story is more credible? People are going to start taking sides and all this. But nevertheless, we had to present this to the people today, and it's a crazy one. It's a crazy one. And I know I personally have campaigned for Mr. Mooney to be on this show a number of times. And I've heard in my comment section in little places, hey, he's not in his right mind to be out here doing interviews. He's sick, things like that. These are his sons speaking for him. I had one brief encounter with it was him and then his son. He told me to reach out to his son. I emailed him our information, never heard anything back. But then I seen him as recently as last week out. He had a picture with Marlon Wayans. I guess he was checking Marlon Wayans out at a comedy show, giving him salute on his recent Netflix series and things like that. So he seemed like he was of right mind, even though he is up in age. We'd love to have him on the show. We'd love to have the representatives or somebody on the show representing him, just giving some proper perspective on what we heard, because these allegations are strong. Yeah, so if anybody hears it, publishes anybody from that camp, definitely get in touch with us. We'll definitely love to, if you got a side of the story you want to tell, our platform is open as well. Definitely. But yeah, man, another powerful episode of the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast today, man. Episode 218 in the books, fam. We appreciate everybody who stayed through. I know it was a lot of information to digest for this one, but hey, man, that's how we do it over here with the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast.